Surah Yasin, verse 41. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وآية لهم أنا حملنا ذريتهم في الفلك المشحون. And a sign for them is that we carried them in laden ships. Okay. The letter waw here is used for isti'naf, meaning it begins a new sentence. After taking the Quraysh on a journey on the what is found up in the sky are the shams, the sun, the qamar, the moon, and that they are perfectly obeying Allah Ta'ala's order, and the day and the night, the layli wa nahar, and that the day cannot outstrip the night, and vice versa. And before that, taking them on a journey through the crops and the ground, that the seeds that you plant, you can't even create that seed. It's Allah Ta'ala who creates it. So what you are getting is blessings from the bottom of the earth through to the top in the heavens, and then within yourselves. And now taking us to deeper down to the water. So let's look at this verse. وَآيَةٌ لَهُمْ. And ayah. Ayah is the singular, the mufrad of the plural ayat. And an ayah or a sign is like it's a sign, it points somewhere, but it's also symbolic. And something symbolic needs to be unpacked. So there's something that needs to be unpacked. And the ayat of Allah Ta'ala are not the verses written down here, but an ayah is pointing to something symbolic. And although the verse says وَآيَةٌ لَهُمْ and a sign and a symbol for them, the Quraysh, it also refers to us. أَنَّا حَمَلْنَا, that indeed we have carried. Now an with the shadda, anna, is a particle of tawqeed, and it's used for takrar, to repeat something. So if I say Muhammadun salihun, Muhammad is pious, but I say inna Muhammadan salihun, then it's like I'm saying Muhammad is salih twice. But to compact that and to make it as short as possible with an amount of force, the word anna, which is often used in the middle of a sentence, and inna at the beginning of a sentence is used. So it's a particle of tawqeed, emphasis, but more for takrar, repetition. So you may get the force and the emphasis that it was certainly done. And you can't translate this. You need a whole few sentences to give due justice to inna and anna. But if conveyed properly, you can feel what's being said here. وَآيَةٌ لَهُمْ, and a sign for them, for us, أَنَّا حَمَلْنَا ذُرِّيَّتَهُمْ, that we carried their offspring. ذُرِّيَّة, males, females, children, grandparents. فِي الْفُلْكِ الْمَشْحُونَ, a fulk is a ship. It could be a ship that today flies in the sky, an aeroplane or something on the ground, like the camels or the cars, or something on the ocean. Here it refers to the ships. Mashhoon refers to of all kinds. And this refers to the ship of Sayyidina Nuh alayhi salam, after humanity was destroyed and only those who followed him were saved. Imam Qurtubi says in his Tafsir, وَآيَةٌ لَهُمْ يَحْتَمِلُ ثَلَاثَةَ مَعَانٍ. It carries three meanings. The ayah for them are of three types. The first is an ibrah lahum. Ibratun lahum. An ibrah is a lesson. He says simply because in ayat, in signs and symbols, there is i'tibar, there's ibrah, there's lessons. And Ibn Ata'illah Sakandari rahimahullah ta'ala in his Kitabul Hikam says that ibrah is the desired goal of uzlah. And uzlah is where you isolate yourself. In the past, they would do it for 12 hours under the guidance of a sheikh, of course. For example, you take 2 hours off from the entire world. You close the door, you lock the door, and you have a Quran with you, and you read and you reflect on who I am, where I came from, where am I going to, what is my purpose here, how can I change to be a better person. And that uzlah, with that isolation and detachment from everything, you enter the realm of tafakkur, of reflection. You reflect on who you were. He says there's no tafakkur without the uzlah, there's no uzlah without tafakkur. But the goal of both together is ibrah, to take a lesson out of everything, so that the slice of bread you see next time, it has meaning, it has a lesson. As we mentioned, Imam Ghazali says that the bread you have in front of you, be careful when you choose the second slice and ignore the hard crust on top, because the angels had to move the clouds and the wind, and the rain had to come down gently and moisten the earth, and then the animals had to do their work on there, and people had to then till the soil and so forth and so on. And finally the khabbaz, the baker, then uses his ingredients to make that bread, and that's how that slice got to you. That's ibrah, i'tibar, reflection. So a sign for us and for them is that we take a lesson out of where we are and how Allah Ta'ala brought us here today. Wathani, the second thing here, ni'matun lahum. It's a grace and a blessing for them, a ni'mah. The plural of ni'mah is ni'am. Like we have Surah Al-An'am, the cattle, but in cattle is a great blessing because they ride you around and they carry stuff for you and they are there to even be food for you. So a ni'mah for them is, it's an ayah, but a ni'mah, لِأَنَّ فِي الْآيَةِ إِنْعَامٍ, because in symbolism and in signs there are graces and blessings. Why is it a grace and a blessing? Because Allah Ta'ala carried them and looked after them. So it's both an ibrah, a reflection, a lesson, and number two, a grace. والثالث, and number three, إنذار لهم. It's a warning for them. لأن في الآيات إنذار. Because in signs there's also warnings. So for us here, if we look at where we are today and we reflect, then we are of Allah Ta'ala's ayat ourselves. We are signs and symbols of people who are blessed to be offspring of the ship of Nuh alayhi salam. We are, that's our lesson. Our grace is that we are here and that we have parents who brought us here. And a warning is not to be like those people who were so arrogant that they shackled themselves through their arrogance with those aghlal we mentioned earlier, those shackles around their necks, fi a'naqihim aghlal. And that shackles is what they shackle themselves with through arrogance, and we can all shackle ourselves through arrogance. بين أيديهم سدا, so there's a barrier in front, ومن خلفه سدا, and behind there's a barrier, so we can never bow our necks down in humility and see where we're going and where we came from. But a merciful God doesn't do that. That is the work of the human being, the self. So the directive here is to the Ahli Makkah, the people of Makkah, the Quraysh, who after clearly seeing this man is a prophet, the way he speaks is beyond any human intervention, and they are directed to what? Al-Qurun al-Madiyah, to the Qurun, the generations of al-Madiyah, of the past, which is Nuh alayhi salam, according to the strongest of opinions. So this Fulk al-Mashhoon, the ship here, of the opinions we said, it is said to be Safinatu Nuh, the ship of Nuh. But it can also be a ism jins, where it takes the entire genus. So it could be any ship, and we could be being addressed here. So it's not specific to them, it could be general. So we need to take note of these subtleties in the ayat, that some verses, although it is specifically directed to a certain tribe, the meaning and application and the lesson is general to all of us. Now there's a third opinion as well, where the dhurriya, the offspring carried here on the ship. We mentioned earlier dhurriya is males and fathers and mothers here, and the ship is Nuh alayhi salam, a general ship we all carried on. But the third opinion, which is a beautiful opinion, says that the dhurriya and nutfa, it was us when we were a leech or a clot of blood. حملها الله تعالى في بطون النساء, where Allah carried us in the ship of the wombs of our mothers. تشبيها بالفلك, likening it to the ship that Nuh alayhi salam carried the people who went with him. And this is the qawl, the opinion of Sayyidina Ali radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, and mentioned by Imam al-Mawardi. And lastly, the word fulk can be the singular wahid wa jam, and it can be a plural as well. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.